Okay, so today we're going over both surface area and volume for these shapes. And so before we start into surface area, I'm going to show you a picture of, this is just, one way to find surface area is to just say, hey, what is every single side of it? So if a cube, if we unfolded that whole cube, we would find, okay, so there's 6 sides, 6 different cubes making up all the sides of this figure. Same thing for a rectangle. There's 6 different sides. You could find the area of each side and add them all together. A cone, which we'll be doing next class, would look like this when we unfolded it. A cylinder would look like this. Prism has a triangle on the end and made of 3 rectangles here. Hexagon, we have the hexagon, the top and the bottom, and then all the sides are the same. And then as we get into the pyramids, which we'll be doing next class, this is what they look like when they're unfolded. And so that's one way to find surface area, is to just find the area of each side and add them all up together. Some people find that easier. Most people find using our formulas easier. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at this, and I would call this a square prism. So I'm going to say, okay, I have a square on the top here, and a square on the bottom, and they're joined by this edge. So if we look at the formula sheet, these are the formulas, and today we're doing all prisms, so with different types of things. And so 2 things you need to know in these formulas is capital letters mean you do something first. So to get that number first, you have to get it. So P stands for perimeter, which means we add all the sides. So adding the sides is the thing you do first to get that number. H is a lowercase letter, that's just the height. And then B stands for area of the base. Okay, so if you want to copy that on to your sheet here, so surface area of everything on this sheet is going to be the perimeter times the height. So that's going to give me all of the sides there. And then I have to add in, so that gives me all the sides that could be unfolded, and then I add in the top and the bottom, which is 2 times the area of the base. And so if you didn't already write it down, just a reminder, P equals perimeter. So we add all the sides. And B equals area of the base. Okay, so this one we have a square, and so my perimeter of that square, each side is 7, just equals 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7, which equals 28. Okay, and then my height here is the 4 kilometers up and down. Okay, so when we talk about perimeter and height, you're saying, hey, what's that basic shape, and then what's the other number that's not a part of that basic shape? And so my height equals 4. And then my area of the base, it's just a square, so it's just 7 times 7, which equals 49. So now I can plug in my P into there, so my surface area equals the 28 that I just found times 4 plus 2 of my bases, which are 49. I plug that into my calculator and get 210 kilometers squared. Okay, so to cover all of that area, I would need 210 kilometers squared. Alright, next, I'm finding volume. So that's my surface area, now I'm finding volume. Volume is even easier. So volume of a prism or cylinder just equals the area of the base, which I already found, times the total height. So volume equals area of the base times the height. And so I'm going to plug in the area of the base that I found, 49, times the height, which is 4. I plug it into my calculator. 49 times 4, and get 196. And area is, volume is always cubed. It's saying how many 1 kilometer cubes could I put in there. So that's surface area and volume of my square prism here. So this one now, I traced my shape. It's a triangle. So I go through the same steps. So I have my 8 on this side. I have my 6 on this side. And I say, okay, this is where they are joined by the right angle. So that's my base and height of the triangle. So when I find the area of the base, it just equals 1/2 base times height. So 1/2 8 times 6. And I know I have to use the 8 and 6 because if I look at the bottom triangle, those are the only corners joined by that right angle. So my area of the base equals 24. My perimeter of the base, I add up all 3 sides, so it's the 8 plus the 6 plus the 10 to equal 14. Okay. And then my height is this other side here, the up and down, which is also 6. So now I've found the 3 things I need, I'm just going to plug them into the formulas. So surface area equals perimeter, so my 14, times the height, which is 6, plus 2 times the area of the base, which is 24. I plug that into my calculator, and I get 192, and this time we're dealing in miles, so it's miles squared. My volume is just that area of the base, the 24, times my height, which is 6. I plug that into my calculator and get 144 miles cubed. Alright, so this next one's a rectangular prism. When you're on a rectangular, you can choose which side is the rectangle. I still usually default to just the top because it's easiest to see. So that top there, the area of the base is just 2 times 11, which equals 22. The perimeter of the base is 2 plus 11 plus 2 plus 11, which equals 26. And then my height would be the 10 on this side. So for surface area, I plug it in. My perimeter, which is 26, times the height, which is 10, plus 2 times 22. Type it into my calculator and get 304 inches squared. And then my volume is just the area of the base, which is 22, times the height, which is 10, which equals 220 inches cubed. Okay, so next we have a trapezoid prism. And so this one we have to trace out, and some people have a harder time seeing them, so I always recommend trace out what is the base here. And what are the dimensions? And so sometimes it helps with trapezoids to draw it off to the side here, make sure we really know the measurement. So I know the bottom here is 5. That top is labeled over here, that's the 9. The height they gave me is 3.5. And then this side that I need for finding perimeter, I can see these are all I drew over it, but these are all marked the same. So that's going to be the 4 miles that they put over here. So that gives me all the numbers I need to find my trapezoid. And then I look, the space that's joining the two trapezoids is this one, that sideways space, and that's the 6. So my area of the base for a trapezoid, remember I have to add up my base 1, base 2, my two parallel sides, divide them by 2, and then give the height. And so my area is 1/2 the 5 plus 9, which I know are my bases because they're parallel, and times the vertical height, which is this 3.5. And so I'm going to plug that into my calculator just that way. And make sure I use the parentheses, plug it in exactly the way it is, and I get 24.5. Okay, so that is my area of the base. My perimeter of the base, I just add up all the sides, and I know these two are equal because it told me, and so that's 4. So 9 plus 5 plus 4 plus 4, which equals 22. Okay, so I've done the work. I found the area of the base, I found the perimeter, and I've identified my height is just 6 inches. And so now I plug it in. So surface area equals the perimeter, which is 22, times the height, which is 6, plus 2 of the bases, so 2 times 24.5. I plug it all into my calculator and get 181 miles squared. And then volume is even easier. It's just the area of the base, so the 24.5, times the height, which is 6. And I plug it into my calculator and get 147 miles cubed. Alright, so now we're going on to even more complicated looking figures, but it's the exact same steps again. So this one is a pentagon. And so I can trace it out. It tells me all the sides are the same. All the sides are 6. Down here it labels for me my little dotted line with the right angle, so that means that's the apothem. And then the height of the whole figure is the 12 yards. So if I have a pentagon, I'm going to do 1/2 apothem times perimeter. So I'm going to start by finding my perimeter. So if I have 6 on one side, and then I just multiply it times the 5 sides, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides, to get 30. So then the area of my base is just 1/2 times the apothem they gave me, which is 4.1, times the 30, which is the perimeter that I already found. And so I plug that in my calculator. 4.1 times 30 divided by 2 is 61.5. And I've already identified my height is the 12 yards that separates them. So I plug it in. Surface area equals perimeter times the height, which is 12, plus 2 times the area of the base. I can type that all in my calculator. I get 483 yards squared. And volume equals just the area of the base times the height. And so I go to my calculator, do that times the height, and get 738. Alright, so then this last one I count up. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. So it is a hexagon. So we're using that same 1/2 apothem times perimeter. And so this one, I'm going to first find the perimeter using my side. I have my apothem down here. Perimeter is just the 8 times 6 sides. Which gives me 48. And then my height, I wrote over it, but it's the little 9 right here, is the height of all of these. Okay, so you are going to finish it. So see if you can take those that we started out finding and finish. Find your surface area and your volume. Alright, so hopefully you paused the video and did the math yourself. Now check your answers. It should be 763.2 kilometers squared would be the surface area, and 1490.4 kilometers cubed is your volume. Okay, if you did not get those answers, check with someone around you, or if you got stuck, ask someone around you to help, or ask your teacher to help you.